All right, we're live on Facebook and we are recording. For everyone, I'm Dr. John Mercer, UNLV. I work with the University Sports Innovation Initiative and I'm professor in kinesiology and nutrition sciences and do a lot of work in biomechanics and exercise physiology of sport performance. And today we've got a special guest. We have Dr. Cordero Roche, an alumni from our program, PhD student that we work together, which is fantastic. And Dr. Cord, if you find him on Instagram or Twitter, he is with the New York Mets as a sports scientist, focusing on the strength and conditioning element of that. So, welcome, Cordero. How are you?
I'm good, man. I'm good. Thanks for having me. How's things with you? How's your semester going so far?
Well, we are 2 weeks into the semester, and we are just flying forward. And this is going to be great. I can't wait. Some of the students are going to watch this live, and then I will also post this video because a lot of people are learning about sports science careers, and I think your pathway to get to the position that you're at now is so interesting, and it really took a lot of determination, a lot of work to get where you are. But you're with the Mets. Now, full disclosure, I grew up as a Yankee fan because I am an upstate New York person, and I am a New York Yankees fan. So, but I think we both don't like the Boston Red Sox, right? Is that at least?
Yeah. For respect for you, yeah. We both don't like the Red Sox. So throw the Phillies in there too.
I love it. I love it.
Yeah.
Well, neither of our teams are doing great right now, but it is fun, and it is really neat to see you working in the Major League Baseball with a team, and so great. So maybe a way to start would be to describe what you do as a sports scientist for the New York Mets.
Wow, that is such an abroad question. The reason why I say that, me and my colleagues, we literally had a conversation about this the other day. We was like, what would you describe your job duty as if someone asked you? And now here I am today.
Love it.
So yeah, basically my title, I'm a sports scientist with New York Mets. This is my first year with the organization. And basically to to sum up what I do, I like to say that I'm like a maintenance man. And what I mean by that is just continue with ongoing research and incorporating new projects, and testing new hypotheses based around the players' training, whether that's through strength and conditioning or just their on-field play. And based off the results from our research that we have, that we generate from our hypothesis, we make recommendations for the athletes based off of that. And that could be based around an array of different things that we're researching and studying at that time. And
Mm.
the reason why I basically call myself a maintenance man, well, everyone in sports performance, when I say sports performance, I mean sports science, strength and conditioning, athletic training, like everyone under that umbrella. The number one goal of our job is to not get anyone hurt.
Mm.
So first off, our initiative is to make sure no one gets hurt. And second off, specifically to my title as a sports scientist, we use those research initiatives that we come up with to, again, make recommendations and help the players. If they're a young guy, you want to help them develop. If they're like an older veteran guy, you want to just help them maintain their athleticism and attenuate the chance of injury for as long as possible and
Mm.
as best as possible.
Oh, I love that. I love that approach. You don't want anyone to get hurt because it influences their ability to play, obviously, and contribute to the team. So I'm curious, what was your very first day like coming onto, a Major League Baseball team and walking in the facility? What was that first day like?
Um, that was kind of crazy. The reason why I say it's kind of crazy, it was like, so in the world of sports, things move fast. Like you see the job posting, you shoot your shot, you know, hopefully you qualify to get a call back, and then everything's gonna move fast based on the turnaround of the season. So um I remember my first day that I got to that I got in town. I arrived Sunday and we were gonna start Monday. And the Sunday I remember was the Super Bowl, Eagles Chiefs. And I remember I got to my hotel right when the Eagles scored the first touchdown. So just little timestamps that help me remember that. But so I get there to my hotel Sunday evening, night sometime, and then Monday is the day that we actually start. And I get there, so the Mets, they hold their spring training in Port St. Lucie, Florida.
Mhm.
So that's where I reported to. So I get there in February, and of course I'm lost because I don't know where I'm going. I just know I was given the address to report to, but you're given the address, but you don't exactly know where to go because you've never been there before.
Right.
So, but after I got directed to the right entrance and everything, it was definitely like a lot coming at you fast. Like, because spring training, everyone's under the same building and you're meeting everyone at the same time. So you're literally, this is no exaggeration, meeting like 100 people your first day. You're probably not going to remember like 20% of the names. You remember like 70% of the faces and like 20% of the names. And on top of that, you're getting debriefed with your job activities and everything. And that's just day one. They're just giving you a rundown of like the organization. Like first they're giving you the core values and everything. And you're meeting everyone that matters. Well, everyone matters, but specifically your department. But but it's just more so getting a tour of the facility, and it's just more so like getting familiarized with basically what we're about to get ourselves into in a good way. Like we're gonna have fun, but at the same time, we understand that the job that we signed up for. So the first day was the first day was pretty fun,
Yeah.
but it definitely let me know that it was gonna go fast, and it
Yeah.
just went fast.
Oh, I love it. Yeah, it's got to be so neat to be able to work with a professional team, and obviously, when in Major League Baseball is such a big sport, and the Mets being such a prominent team, that must have been sort of a feeling like, wow, I made it type of thing. So that's so neat. So now in your day-to-day routine, what tools do you find yourself working with in terms of measuring performance or measuring some outcome of movement or strength of the athletes?
Force plays definitely. Force plays is seen to capture their attention across all of like sports. We're really not just sports, just lifestyle in general. Because I even know like some clinics outside of sports that are incorporating force plays like into their daily practice and routine, just assessing recreational athletes or probably using it in like private settings. But back to the original topic, force plays definitely is something that we utilize, and we take and we derive a lot of metrics from force and incorporate that into our practice based around our hypothesis and researches that we're currently running. Um, Also use a lot of the grip testing, the hand dynamometers. That's something that is very prevalent across all of baseball, specifically with pitchers,
Mhm.
um, because obviously you're testing uh, grip strength, you're testing fatigue in the elbow, and you know how significant that is to pitching or throwing in general. Um, so hand dynamometer, force plates. We use something called a Kanga tech.
Hmm.
Um, if you're not familiar with the Kanga tech, it uses pressure sensors to to measure movements in different planes. What I mean by that is Kanga tech. You can just Google it whenever you have some free time. We typically use it to capture a lot of lower body measurements. You can test hip abduction, hip abduction, hip adduction, shoulder rotation, internal, external, um, multiple different things that you can test and develop like baseline metrics for based around your specific practice, whatever you want to do. And as far as like analyzing the data, typically work a lot with our studio. We have like some biomechanists in house, some performance technologists. They use MATLAB for like a lot of their codes and a lot of their models that they're running. But sports scientist side, we involve more with R. I've been using that a lot to like code and visualize a lot of the data and things like that we're using. Oh, and also Tableau. I've gotten some experience to use that, so that's been cool. Also, using that more so for data visualization.
Yeah. I love that you brought that up because it's gotten to a point where it's so easy to collect a lot of data, whether it's force platforms or camera systems or some type of wearable technology. But the key is really getting the data and then visualizing it. And so you work a lot in programming to visualize that data, right?
Yeah, I do. We want to make it tell a story that makes sense to our stakeholders. front office coaches and everything that they can follow along also. The biggest thing that we want to make sure is that it's easy for everyone to read.
Yeah.
And on my standpoint, not just from the front office, but I also be able to share this with the players too whenever they're curious, because this is their data. It's one thing to share this with the coaches, but it's also another thing to share with the players, because I want to give them a sense of understanding as to why this is happening, you know, and as to why this recommendation may have came up for them, because I'm just a firm believer of like communication being on the same page across the board for everybody, because that just helps with the buy-in. So yeah, you make a good point. We use that, and we use like those coding systems mainly specifically to visualize our data, but we also want to make sure that we can run the analysis, and based off our background and training, we can interpret what it is. But if we put somebody, oh yeah, they had this p-value that was less than 0.05, they're gonna be like, what's that telling us? So they're not gonna understand that. So we have to draw it out to where, okay, this shows that this happens, and just so it can paint the better picture for them.
Oh, I love it. Now, do you know how long the Nets have been hiring people with sports science backgrounds? Because this field has really taken off, and I bet we probably couldn't find a Major League Baseball team that does not have a sports scientist, at least one on the staff.
Actually, the Atlanta Braves, and they just
Oh,
won it
really?
all like 2 years ago.
There you go. They
So
don't have any, huh? Wow.
no, they don't have none, and that's amazing. They have like data analytics. Like data analytics is something that's across like all of baseball, but like sports science, you said it best, it's fairly new, not just in baseball, but sports in general, at least in America. So yeah, I was surprised to find out the Atlanta Braves, they don't have a sports scientist. I heard it's something that they're gonna like probably bring on within the upcoming seasons, but I'm with the Mets. They do their own thing. But regardless, but to the Mets, so my coordinator, Dean Little, he's the sports science, the Major League Sports Science coordinator. He first got here in 2019. And it was my understanding that I think there was someone in place before him. And I think he may have got here in like I don't want to be completely wrong, but he may have got here by like 2016, 2017.
Okay.
So my boss, Dean Little, he got here in 2019, but before that, he was with the Memphis Grizzlies. He started the sports science for them. And he was there with the Memphis Grizzlies. I don't know who's all going to watch this, but if you remember the era of Mike Conley and Zach Randolph and Mark Gasol, he was there during that era. And whenever they broke that era up, that's when he was like, okay, I'm going to transition to a different area himself. And that's when the position with the Mets came open, and he came up here. And so he got here in 2019.
Yeah. And
when he got here, sports science was here, but like I said, because they had somebody in place before him, but it really wasn't like it really wasn't like embedded like it is now. Since he's gotten here in 2019, the team has like grown drastically, and it's only going to grow. We just opened a new biomechanics lab actually at our complex in Port St. Lucie, Florida. We just opened it like a month or two ago. So we're excited about that. We actually had some postings out just recently trying to bring on biomechanist associate for someone to work at the complex down in Florida to help run the new lab that we just opened. So I'll say it really like became a necessity within the organization in 2019 when Dean Little got here.
Okay. Interesting. Yeah. And so it's evolving as a career path. And I saw, I was checking out the Mets positions. I saw that biomechanist position. So I actually posted it to a couple of the classes I'm teaching this semester. So that's neat that those positions are really being posted and much more active in that. So what I also wanted to bring you on though is to talk about how you ended up in this job. Now, you and I got to know each other through your doctoral work, and I know during that doctoral program, you were being enticed with different job positions. And so you had to really, hold firm and get your PhD done before jumping out there into the industry. But maybe talk a little bit about, from your undergrad to your PhD, that pathway that you followed and how it led you to this position.
Oh, how much time you got?
We got some time. It's a great story, though.
Okay, so I'm from Vernon, Florida. That's a small town in Florida, right outside Panama City. And I did my undergrad at Troy University. So funny story, when I went to Troy University, my undergrad was in broadcast journalism and my minor was in health promotions.
Hmm.
And graduated there initially in 2012 and spent that first year trying to actually figure out where things are going to go, because if I knew in some way, shape, form, or fashion, if I wasn't playing sports, like either I wanted to be a sportscaster or I wanted to some way work in sports as far as like being a trainer or something like that. And so after I graduated in 2012, I spent like a year trying to figure out exactly what I was going to do. And then in 2014, that's when I got certified my CSCS. I did a strength and conditioning internship at the beginning of 2015 for Florida International University. And that right there got the gears turning for me to go back to my master's, because I knew if I wanted to really I really wanted to go where I wanted to in this field, I knew I had to get my master's. So something that was neat, when I was at FIU, there was a strength coach that was there. His name was Mick Smith. Mick Smith had time in the NBA as a strength coach, and his most notable stop was with the Orlando Magic. He was there when Dwight Howard was first drafted, and he had a lot to do with Dwight Howard's development. So I remember I was talking to him about my path where I wanted to go. I was just so fascinated by his story and time in the NBA. And I remember he told me, he said, "It sounds like that you're really interested in going to the NBA one day." I said, "I am." He said, "I'm gonna give you a word of advice." At the time, if you looked at the job postings, it didn't have it in there. Now it does. But he said, "You're not going to see it in the job posting that it requires a master's." He said, "But I'm going to tell you, if you don't have a master's, you'll never get the job, because there's so many applicants who's applying for it, and you're automatically handicapping yourself going against them."
Hmm.
So that was some great advice he gave me. So that right there turned the gears for me to go back and get my master's at Troy. So I started my master's in 2015 back at Troy University. When I was there also, I was a strength and conditioning coach for Troy University as well. So while I was there, the teams I really worked with was men's and women's golf. I worked with the cheerleading club as well. I also helped assist with baseball and softball, soccer, volleyball, a lot of other Olympic sports. And so was there in Troy from 2015 to 2017. But I say towards the beginning of the year 2016 is when I had the idea to go get a PhD. That's when I started reaching out to schools. And eventually me and you, we had got connected, John.
Yeah.
But before that, I remember that I saw the direction the trend of the industry was going, because I went back to Troy University for my master's because I initially wanted to be a strength and conditioning coach. And I saw the direction that the industry was going as far as like using force plates. And at that time, GPS was the newest crave. Everybody was just coming into GPS, and now it's a staple everywhere, along with force plates. But at that time, it was becoming brand new. And, you know, the professional sports teams or the big Power Five schools, they're the ones with the funding who are going to get their hands on that technology. So they want someone who have experience with it.
Hmm.
And I did not have experience with it at that time. So I knew that was another handicap going against me for those positions. I remember me and you had talked about that during my interview process, John. But during that time also, a neat thing happened. My final semester, I took a biomechanics course, my final semester of my master's. And that professor, Dr. John Gardner, was the first person ever introduced me to biomechanics. I had no clue what was going on in that class, but I was so interested in it. And he was like the first one to tell me about sports science. I was like, sports science? I never heard of that. Outside of like what I saw on ESPN with John Brinkus. Like that was the only time I heard of sports science. I did not know it was an actual career until like 2016.
Yeah.
That's when he was the one who first told me about the path of sports science. When I started looking more into it, I saw how more and more teams were starting to incorporate it.
Hmm.
At the time, it was fairly new when I first learned of it, and not many teams have it. Now it's like everywhere. But when he first gave me when he first introduced me to sports scientists, I just immediately fell in love with it. I was like, oh, this is like studying like an athlete, how an athlete is an athlete. I'm like, I can do that all day. So upon completing my master's, fast forward, spoiler, I got into UNLV and I studied under Dr. Mercer. And while I was here, the training that I got, that I was just talking about, as far as working with force plates, learning how to code, working with EMG, just all these different tools and experiences just gave me a well-rounded perspective. And it really prepared me going into the current role I am now, because just seeing how all that practical training has came into full experience, and it just helped me provide value to the organization, because I can step in right away, because this is unfamiliar territory for me. So upon completion of my PhD, so I was at UNLV from 2017 to May of 2021. Upon completion of that, my very first job was actually, I was a strength and conditioning coach for the United States military right outside Tacoma, Washington. One of the best experiences I ever had. I'm not even gonna lie. It was my first time ever living in the Pacific Northwest, so I was right outside Seattle area. That's a pretty nice area.
It is.
The people were cool. It gave me a completely different perspective about the military. And on top of that, it really prepped me going into pro sports, because just like sports, the military, you're getting people from all different walks of life. So it helped me prepare, because I'm like, you're going to get people from different walks of life. And one thing that's going to bring them together in the military, you're defending your country. You got to trust your fellow, Army man that has your back. And professional sports, in my case, everybody's here bonded together because they're good at baseball. So that's one thing that they're going to bond over. So it was good, like, to see those pairings, those comparisons between the two. But yeah, Seattle, that was a great experience up there. I was up there for like a few months until I actually got my first break in pro sports last season, because I was with the Tampa Bay Rays last season. So I spent my time down in South Florida. I worked with them. And now this past season, I just got the job with the Mets. And I must say that season with the Rays definitely helped me get this job with the Mets, based off the experience I was able to gain through that.
Mhm. I love that. Well, boy, what a path you followed. This is really really amazing. It's so neat that you take a class and it just changes your perspective, or at least it opens up different ideas that you can pursue, and that's wonderful. And I'm so glad that you picked UNLV to do your PhD work, because one of the things that you brought to the program was a passion for wanting to learn, and not only learn the nuts and bolts of a topic, but learn all the instruments. And like you said, you learned force platforms, EMG, you did waterproofed EMG, you did kinematic systems, accelerometers, and you self-taught yourself MATLAB programming. And the other thing that I saw you do, which was really important, was you went to conferences, and you mentioned that earlier. You went to international conferences, you went to national conferences, and you met a lot of new colleagues that way. And you were diving into the topic, just jumping in both feet and just loving it.
Yeah, that's a great point. Like, you can't understate like me going to those conferences, man. Like, it really opened up like a lot of doors. It really helped me make a lot of great connections. One thing that I took for granted when I was doing my undergrad and my master's was that I did not attend a lot of conferences like I should have. But that just came with growth. That just came with the maturity in the field. You only know what you know, but once you understand like the importance of it, you take advantage of it. I really thank you for pushing me on that, making sure that I sign up for a lot of these poster presentations, making sure I sign up for these conferences, even if I have nothing to present, just make sure I go and show my face, because the advantages and the values of it. Like, not only do you meet new colleagues, but it also just gives you like a sense of understanding of what's out there. The biggest thing that I always say is, I think the biggest thing going to UNLV is one of the best things that happened to me. And it's not just the PhD. Like, the PhD speaks for itself. It's the opportunity that it opened me up to that I never knew existed until I came out here. Like, it's just what was exposed to me that I did not have access to back to where I was previously at. Like, understanding these conferences that got me the network that I have now. Like I had no clue about the NBA strength coach conference until I came out to Vegas and networked with a few colleagues, and they told me, and that helped get me on the path to where I'm at right now. So yeah, the networking part is something that I can't stress. I understand it's expensive, especially being a student, but at the same time, you really can't put a price on your future. Of course, within reason, of course. But if you can, try to get in at least 2 conferences a year, and like major conferences, not so much as like your local state clinics or whatnot, but like major conferences. Like actually travel if you got to actually go out and meet these different people. And more importantly, it shows these employers that you're also not afraid to travel, because they're going to want to go and get people who's not hesitant about coming to the opportunity, because in sports especially, they move fast. So they like offer you the position and they want you to start. Don't be surprised they say, yo, we need you here by next week. So they want to know, like, can you make that happen like next week?
Oh, I love that, and I love the idea of going to conferences, because it's one thing, like you said, the degree speaks for itself, and you do a lot of coursework going through your undergrad, graduate, master's, and graduate PhD. But the coursework gets you to one spot. It's having conversations with people is where you really learn the topic deeper, and like you said, you establish some networks that way as you go along. All right, so I'm going to ask Dr. Roche, what would you tell young Cordero? And now the conferences being one thing, but as an undergrad, what would you go back and either say, hey, you're going to be doing this, and that's great, or maybe do more of this? What would be your advice?
Yeah, take school way more seriously now.
Yes.
That would literally be my advice, because for the simple fact, the less student debt you have, the better.
Mm-hmm. No.
So that's definitely the first thing, the one thing that I would definitely tell young me. But also, young me was also like very, very like dialed in on like trying to play sports at that time.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So, and I see where me being very, very dialed in to play sports has gotten me,
Mm-hmm.
so yeah, definitely like take school way more serious. But I would also tell me to enjoy the moment more.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because I'm not gonna lie, like I remember you were telling me, you was like, enjoy the moment, because when you get out, you're gonna look back and say, man. And there's times that I look back, I'm like, man, like you can still remember like it happened yesterday, but that happened. I'm not gonna age myself, but that happened some time ago.
I love it. You're right, because when you're in school, I mean, it's your opportunity to learn. And when you're out in the real world, you don't always have time to, go and try to study something. It's like, okay, business world, hey, tomorrow this is due, and so it's a different clock that you're working on.
Definitely. You try to take advantage of what free time you got. So
Mhm.
you don't understand how much free time you have when you're in school. That's for sure.
Yeah, yeah. But I love your involvement with sport and throughout your educational career, because I think that's where we sort of find that common ground of why we're doing what we're doing, is that sport. And because that is, it's obviously physical, but it's mental, and it takes a lot of passion to get good at a sport, which you've done. And you've been able to take that same passion and transfer it over to being passionate about learning and education, because that's not easy to go through, all the years of schooling and get through all the projects and study for all the tests, and but you got to have a passion for it and then enjoy the process as you do it.
Yeah, definitely. Being around my cohorts at UNLV, being around you definitely, and like everyone else, like it definitely made that transition a lot easier, because I was in a room around everyone who had some common passion.
Hmm.
Um, Whether that, and our common passion may have taken us like different specific routes, but overall we all share the same like passion. That's just learning,
Hmm.
and that's just learning to get better. Specifically in our field of biomechanics,
Yeah.
or kinesiology. Like we all had that same common passion to learn, that all same common passion to like just want to get better. Like you
Hmm.
meet those who come from different walks. Maybe they had like an athletic background, maybe they had a musical background, whatever it may be. Like growing up, they were very passionate about that. But you understand life is going to take you different ways, and during that, when you're finding that transition, it's not over. You just channel that passion towards something else that you're real passionate about, and that's what just make that transition much easier, going from UNLV to now in the pro sports setting. I'm working with the same individuals who have that same passion. You talk about the athletes, they have to be passionate about playing, the coaches, the dedication they have, and then your other colleagues and across the board, not just in the sports performance department, but also in the equipment department and analytics. And you can just go down a list. It's a job that you have to be dedicated to, but you're passionate about it. The thing about it is, we understand that in this life, we have to look forward to death and taxes, right? That's what a famous president said. But I'm also a firm believer that also in life, you're going to come around some bad moments, but I'm a firm believer with anything, the good should outweigh the bad. So if you're going to have to work, if you're going to have to labor and pay taxes, at least make sure that it's something that you enjoy doing. I like the fact that when I wake up that I don't dread that it's a Monday. I wake up, I'm like, oh, it's Monday. I'm like, that's cool. I get to start my week off this way.
I love it. I love it. And you brought that same positive energy to the doctoral program when you were here, and that's great because you do need to have that passion. And I think along the way, I mean, what you developed is just a skill set to be critically evaluating anything that you're getting and from instruments, which again goes back to why you're being successful with what you're doing now, because you're so good at not only just getting information, but then trying to tease out the knowledge that you can get from the different data points that you're collecting. So it's so cool to see you go full circle on learning the content and now really applying it to something you're enjoying.
It's fun, man. It's fun. It's a good time to be here.
Yeah, I love it. Okay, so now because I told you I'd keep you only about, a little over 30 minutes, but
No, you're good.
we've gone over that. But now speaking of fun though, what have you enjoyed about living in New York?
I'm definitely never bored, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Honestly, what I like about it, I just really, really love just like the different cultures that you experience. So City Field, so I work at City Field, and City Field sits in Flushing, and Flushing is like in like downtown Queens area. Like literally, when I come out of City Field on Seaver Way, if I make a right and go like a mile one way, I'm like in Little Asia. If I make a left and go a mile one way, I'm in Little South America. If I go to specific parts in Queens, like if I go like the Forest Hills, that's like a heavy Jewish area. Same with Williamsburg. There's parts in Brooklyn that's like Little Caribbean and everything, like the different cultures that's around and how that all just meshes and blends together. I've never been in an environment like that. So it's neat to experience it all and like give me a perspective from and just give me a different perspective from everybody's cultures, from everybody's point of view. It's been definitely a neat experience.
Yeah.
And I get to do that working for the Mets.
Yeah. No, I know. I love that. I actually probably lived only about 10 miles from where you are right now, for maybe about 4 or 5 years. And yes, it is. You get such a rich, diversity of cultures. It's really, really pretty neat. And that's such a great experience. So do you go down to Manhattan much or?
I've only been to Manhattan once since I've been there. Well, I guess twice because Harlem technically is a part of Manhattan.
Yeah.
But the part that everyone knows, Times Square, I've only been once. And I just went just to say I went while I was up here.
I know. Yeah. Well,
because
no,
go ahead.
I was just going to say it's so. I live 10 miles from where you are, but it probably would have taken me 45 minutes to an hour to go from where I was to where you are because the traffic can be so hectic to get there. And even getting down to Manhattan, it's not easy to do.
Oh, I just take the train.
Yeah.
Like the train may take a little longer depending on traffic and where you're going, but I don't have to deal with parking or anything like that.
Yeah.
Like, okay, I'll just take the train.
I love it. I love it. Oh, memories. I love it. Cordell, this has been so great to talk with you. I am so excited that when you got this position, it was great to hear because I know this was your goal is to work in professional sports and to be a sports scientist. And that's so great that you're living the dream and enjoying it.
It's been definitely, I don't say this much, but it's actually been everything that I
Yeah.
wanted.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's definitely like been a true blessing to have this position. New York's been great. This position definitely is demanding. I
Yeah.
travel a lot. It requires me to travel a lot.
Hmm.
They send me across like different affiliates and also like different sites and everything for scouting and whatnot. It's been cool to be a part of that. It's been cool to like definitely overall be a part of like just the process in general.
Yeah.
So it's been cool traveling throughout and just being involved like in the process, like
Hmm.
going in the future. Like I'm very excited to be here. Like
Yeah.
definitely got like some young studs that's growing in the organization, man.
Yeah.
I can't wait for you guys to see them.
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome. Well, I hope to come out and visit you at some point. This is really, really great for you to take the time out of your day. I know it's evening where you are to talk with me, and I'll share this video with our students and anyone else because it's such a great message that you're giving in terms of how to go through a program and end up where you really want to be.
Yeah, definitely, John. I appreciate you thinking of me for this opportunity, man. This has been neat. I've always wanted to get on one of your podcasts.
That's great. Awesome. All right, Cordero. Well, we'll talk again soon. Thanks everyone for watching and really enjoyed this discussion with you.
Yeah, thanks everyone for watching. It's been a pleasure. Thanks everyone.